Hello everyone, welcome to the part 2, which is the basic understanding or the content part on the topic Bimstec versus Saarc. We have already covered the part 1 and now we are going to cover the part 2. So let's start. Need for regional cooperation. So earlier there was a belief, there was an environment that regional cooperation is the way forward for prosperity. Almost all the regions of the world, be it Europe, be it South America, be it Africa, they were coming together for regional cooperation, and it was seen as a method for prosperity and growth. And so such regional cooperation was seen at various economic and even at political levels. But recently, the trends such as Brexit, in which UK is moving out of the European Union, or the US scrapping of the Trans-Pacific Partnership shows that the global mood is against regional cooperation. So in this context, should India be pursuing the regional cooperation, be it Bimstec or be it Saarc? The answer is yes. The mood in South Asia is still very positive with respect to regional cooperation. In fact, South Asian countries have shown an increased interest in regional cooperation. One of the biggest example to say this is the setting up of BBIN. BBIN is a sub-regional cooperation which was made in aftermath of the Kathmandu summit in 2014. BBIN has 4 countries: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal. Moreover, in the South Asian countries, the countries are closely tied together in their socio-political state, and they face similar threats and challenges. Similar threats and challenges such as terror threats, such as poverty, racial conflict, and or even vulnerability to disasters. These threats automatically or by naturally ask the South Asian countries to come together to tackle the threats and challenges in a much more effective way. So one question which this part was covered, why the South Asian countries should come together for regional cooperation. But if a question comes more specifically on what is the relevance of Saarc, many of the points which were given in the previous slides could be used. But in addition to that, we could also add some points that the World Bank, and this point was covered in the part 1 of this topic also, the World Bank says that the intra-regional trade is less than 5% of the total trade of South Asian countries. And 5% has been stagnant for the last 2 decades. So if we want to increase the intra-regional trade in the South Asian countries, the way forward is Saarc. And in fact, the report also argues that the potential of South Asian countries is to at least double this figure. So we can quote this data and quote this statement that this is why Saarc becomes very relevant. Moreover, the points such as the Saarc countries have contiguous geography. Almost all the countries of South Asia of Saarc are governed by the geographies of Indian Ocean and Himalayas. Then there are common issues, as we talked earlier, of terrorism, of racial conflict, of poverty. Almost all the countries of Saarc are witnessing today what we call as the demographic dividend. Today, when the Western world is getting older and older and they're facing the problem of aging population, the South Asian countries are still very young. When the average age of countries like US or UK is around 40, India's average age or South Asia's average age is below 29. And this shows that the South Asian countries could act as the source of labor and source of working population for the whole world. Moreover, cooperation is needed in areas such as health, space, disaster management. In fact, India is called the champion of Sendai framework in the South Asian region. India has worked to launch a satellite, the South Asian satellite, for the benefit of all the South Asian countries. And so India is taking a lead for cooperation among the South Asian countries and Saarc countries for growth in various fields. Now, as I talked earlier in the part 1, one good way of answering the question of international relation is through using this template of DESCO. D for development, E for economy, or we can also say trade and development. S is for security, C is for connectivity, and O is for others. So here I would be using this template to show the relevance of Bimstec. First of all, we will talk about development. In India, the northeastern part of India has been not very developed for quite long. In fact, it faces major challenges. One of them is the skewed population resource balance. The other is the long distance from the mainland India and long distance from ports. And because of this, all these and other reasons also, northeastern India has not developed up to its potential. But it is believed that regional groupings such as Bimstec will help in the pursuit of northeastern development. And one of the examples which you can quote is Sitwe Port. So the distance between northeastern states and Kolkata Port is much longer than the distance between northeastern states and the Sitwe Port, which is in Myanmar. So if the regional grouping of Bimstec becomes closer and closer, then the northeastern states could use Sitwe Port for their own development. Moreover, Bimstec is a kind of link between the South Asian countries and the Asian countries. And so the Bimstec is also very much in line with our Act East policy, in which we aim to engage more and more with the Eastern Asian countries. If we talk about the economic cooperation, or we can also talk about, we can also use the word trade and investment, the intra-regional trade has increased by 6% in a decade. Now this is a very good data which could be memorized. So like I told you, in Saarc, the intra-regional trade was 5% of the total trade, but it was stagnant for the last 2 decades. But in case of Bimstec, the intra-regional trade has increased by 6% in just a decade, and which is a substantial growth. Moreover, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and these countries are very high growth economies. So in this way, we can say that the Bimstec countries could come together to cooperate in the field of economy as well. Now if we talk about security cooperation, security cooperation could be seen under energy security, terror threats, and even cooperation to control drug trafficking, human trafficking, and others. So if we talk about energy security, recently the Bimstec Energy Center has opened in Bengaluru. So in this, and there is huge potential to trade in energy sector among the Bimstec countries. So we can say that the Bimstec grouping would help in ensuring energy security among the member states. The second point, terror threat. In the 2018 summit in Nepal, the Bimstec meeting passed a resolution that to hold those countries accountable who are sponsoring terrorism. So in a very subtle way, they were targeting Pakistan. The second point which we can say in this heading of terror threat is that we are in the Bimstec countries are trying to come up with a convention to fight terrorism. As we know, India is also leading the fight to come up with a convention which defines and fights terrorism at the UN. Though we are facing some problems there, we are also trying a similar convention trying a convention on similar lines in Bimstec. Then this third point is very important, that Bimstec countries could could cooperate among each other to tackle the menace of drug trafficking and human trafficking. This diagram shows the major drug areas where lots of drug is either cultivated or transported. So as you can see, on the eastern side of India and on the western side of India, there are 2 major hubs of drugs. On the western side of India is what we call Golden Crescent, and on the eastern side of India is the Golden Triangle. You can make this diagram in your answer sheet also. The Golden Triangle contains 3 countries. One is Thailand, the other is Myanmar, and the third one is Laos. So among these 3 countries, 2 countries are part of Bimstec. So Bimstec also gives us an opportunity to cooperate to tackle the menace of drug trafficking. So our development is done, our economy part is done, our security part is done. Now we will move on to connectivity. Connectivity, like I told you, Bimstec acts as a link between the South and Southeast Asia, and to convert this bridge into physical connectivity, we have engaged in multiple projects, and the most famous among them are IMT, that is the Indo-Myanmar Thailand Trilateral Highway. I've also shown you the diagram of this IMT project in the part 1. Then there is Kaladan Multimodal Transit Project, and there is Bimstec Motor Vehicle Agreement. It is very likely that aspirants will focus on IMT and Kaladan and might forget the motor vehicle agreement. So if you write all these three, you might get some extra points. Then we can talk about disaster management. Almost the whole region is very vulnerable to disasters, be it earthquakes on the side of Himalayas, or be it the monsoon vulnerability, the floods, droughts, or even the cyclones. All the countries are facing this problem of disaster. So it is very likely, it has a very high potential that these countries come together and cooperate with each other to tackle, to reduce the disaster risk. Then this point is also very important and could be written easily in the answer sheet. It is saying that Bimstec is primarily focusing on economic and technical cooperation. And if we go to the Bimstec's full form, then also we can see this focus on economic and technical cooperation among the countries of South Asia and Southeast Asia. But Bimstec has clearly identified 14 sectors in which they would be enhancing regional cooperation among each other. So 14 sectors have been identified to be targeted. Among these, in all these 14 sectors, there is one lead country, and India is the lead country in 4 of such sectors. So in this way, we can say that India and whole Bimstec has the potential to cooperate among each other in these sectors as well. This is a very general slide which shows the difference between Saarc and Bimstec. You could pause it, or you could see the presentation which is shared in the GRACE IAS website. You could see that the major differences between Saarc and Bimstec is that the first is that Saarc is a regional cooperation, but Bimstec is an inter-regional cooperation. It has countries from 2 different regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia. Moreover, Saarc suffers from regional politics, but in Bimstec there is much more cooperation among the member countries. So you can read all these points. These are the general points which could be asked, which could be written if a question is directly asked, what are the difference between Saarc and Bimstec. Now there is this slide in which it is asked whether what is the importance of Bimstec for other countries. Till now we have talked about the importance of Bimstec either for India or in general. So a question would be asked, what is the importance of Bimstec for other countries? We'll start with Myanmar and Thailand. In Myanmar and Thailand, both these countries have seen investment from China, but they are not very comfortable with investment from China. They see India as a better option if they need investment, and moreover they need market, and they see India as a huge potential market for their goods. So Indian market is an alternative to the Chinese inroads for Myanmar and Thailand. Nepal and Bhutan both are landlocked countries. Both need a seaport, a port to engage in exports and imports. So they see Bimstec as a source to escape their landlock. Sri Lanka is generally seen as a very small country in South Asia. Now they see Bimstec as an opportunity to connect with the huge potential of Southeast Asian market. Similarly, Bangladesh is at the center of the Bimstec grouping. So it sees Bimstec as a potential, as an opportunity to position itself more than just a small state in the Bay of Bengal and play a central role in this regional cooperation of Bimstec. Now a question could also be asked whether Saarc has failed. whether this grouping of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation has failed. So I've added some points. The first point is that the SAARC is quite an old organization. It was established in 1985. So despite about 3 decades of long period of SAARC, the performance is very less than satisfactory. The major issue which almost everybody will quote in their answer is that there is lack of trust among the member nation, and most importantly among India and Pakistan. Pakistan has not been cooperating at all in most of the major initiatives, and the biggest example is the Saarc motor vehicle agreement, which India wanted to succeed, but it was due to the hindrance created by Pakistan. It did not succeed, and this motor vehicle agreement, the Saarc motor vehicle agreement, was crucial to promote the regional connectivity among the South Asian countries, but it failed. And then the 19th Saarc summit was to be held in Pakistan, in Islamabad, but it was postponed indefinitely after the member countries declined to attend this summit. Moreover, there has been failure in security cooperation and continuous supply of cross-border terrorism from the side of Pakistan. So, a question could be asked whether India is shifting its focus towards Bimstec. Is there any proof, any tangible proof that India is now focusing on Bimstec more and more? So, the first proof which we can give is the External Affairs Minister's statement. In the part 1 I showed you that the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar showed that India is aiming to engage more and more with Bimstec regional grouping as there are some issues with SAARC. Then as the SAARC summit has been indefinitely postponed after the summit in Pakistan was postponed, so there is no news or no information about any coming summit of SAARC. Moreover, India has taken multiple initiatives and there have been some important developments. For example, India set up the Bimstec together set up the Energy Center, Bimstec Energy Center in Bengaluru, and the Bimstec Business Council was also set up. Bimstec Business Council is a forum for business organizations to promote regional trade. Then there was a meeting of national security advisors of all the members countries which was held in Delhi in 2017. So national security advisors meeting happened in Delhi in 2017. So these steps showed that India is now shifting its focus towards Bimstec. Other major initiatives which could be talked about in Bimstec are IMT, Kaladan, MVA, that is the motor vehicle agreement. Then recently a permanent secretariat was set up in Dhaka. During 2016, when BRICS summit was happening in Goa, there was a BRICS Bimstec outreach summit also in Goa. Then there was a 2018 Nepal summit resolution which talked about making those countries accountable which are sponsoring terrorism. So these are some of the recent initiatives which happened with respect to Bimstec. Now we will also talk about some challenges in Bimstec. Yes, we said that in SAARC there are bilateral issues, especially between India and Pakistan. There are some bilateral issues in Bimstec as well, though not as huge as there were issues in SAARC, but still there are some issues. The first issue is between Nepal and Bhutan. There are a large number of Nepali refugees in Bhutan, and which is a source of conflict between the two countries. Then there is Rohingyas issues. Rohingyas issue is very famous, and this is a major issue between Bangladesh and Myanmar. Then there is a border issue between Myanmar and Thailand. So these points are not very common, and if added in your answer could help you fetch more marks. Then as I told you earlier, the major issue in such regional grouping is that the connectivity projects are generally very delayed, so which ultimately lowers the morale of the whole organization. Then we talked about opening up of a permanent secretariat in Dhaka, but there is quite visible resource crunch in that secretariat. So these are some of the challenges. Some more challenges I can also talk about. There are internal issues in various countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Nepal. In Thailand there is a political turmoil. In Myanmar, the military still controls a large part of the government. In Nepal, the issue of Maoism and the issue of political instability still persist. Then there is this issue of restrictive visa regime. Most of the countries don't allow free flow or easy approval of visa applications. So, and there is cumbersome formalities. There is a lot of red tapeism in visa approval procedures, and this is leading to illegal migration among the member countries. This illegal migration increases the trust deficit among the member countries. Then there is this delay in the Bimstec free trade agreement, which India and many countries have been trying for quite a long time, but still it is being delayed. So, and the last but not the least point is that the countries of Bimstec have variation in resource base, and there is variation in market also. The industrial development level is also very different in almost all the countries, and the governance of motor vehicles are also at a very different level in the countries of Bimstec. So these things don't allow the countries to come together and cooperate on issues such as motor vehicle agreement or trade and development. So these are the major challenges which countries of Bimstec are facing. So what is the way forward? Like I told you, their problem is that there is delay in projects. The solution is Pragati model. Pragati model will help in timely delivery of such projects. It will fast forward the projects. So Ministry of External Affairs is now engaging with this Pragati model for timely delivery of these development projects. Then we talked about illegal migration. Because of the restrictive visa regime, there is illegal migration. So there should be liberal border crossing among the countries of Bimstec. There should be border haats. Border haats are small shops, small marketplaces where people from border countries, adjoining countries could come together, trade with each other and go back to their places. And if there are some border issues, for example, there are border issues between Thailand and Myanmar, these should be resolved as soon as possible. In last, we could say that India should not see Bimstec just as a tool to isolate Pakistan. Rather, it should embrace the immense potential of this organization. It would be very narrow-minded to see Bimstec just as a tool to isolate Pakistan, because there is huge potential in Bimstec which should be embraced by India. And moreover, we should not end the possibility of revival of Saarc, because it is only through Saarc that we could better utilize and better engage with our friendly country of Afghanistan. I have given these answers. You should either pause the video and read these answers, or you could go to the slides which are given in the GRACE IAS website to see how this mechanism of answer writing of mark fetching points are used in this question of Bimstec and Saarc. This answer is also a very good answer on the similar topic. Thank you.